To stretch Gwen's analogy, I think we might be the warrant on your investment today. I don't think you'll find us in the book. We've just come back to trading after the exchange reviewed what was considered a fundamental transaction for the company, which is the acquisition of the PANUCO project. Given the extreme short notice, our president is actually on a plane coming back from Mexico at the moment. Mike Connaught would love to be here and give this presentation. He IPO'd Vizsla about 12 months ago with our chairman Craig Parry, specifically to go looking for an opportunity like this. I'm the VP of Exploration. My background is early stage exploration through to advanced resource development for major and junior companies, most recently with Evrim. So I have an extended history of drilling projects in Mexico over the last 3 or 4 years. You'll find our disclaimer on our website if you'd like to read it at a slower pace. Something's gone with the formatting there, sorry. So essentially, Vizsla's just come back to trade yesterday, and that's why we're such a late entrance into the conference. The reason we've come back to trade is because we acquired the PANUCO project in southern Sinaloa in Mexico. It's an unusual property to describe. It's a significant silver district, over 15 by 8 Ks. It contains some really notably high-grade silver results, but it's an unusual project in that it's a currently operating mine with a mill and a number of other toll mills in the district, but at the same time, it's never seen any modern exploration. A small part of the project was drilled a couple of years ago in the mid-2000s, but as a district, it's never seen any exploration. The strange thing for an investor to understand about this opportunity is how does a $10 to $20 million market cap company get their foot on an opportunity like this? And the short answer is the silver price was so depressed earlier in the year that a group called Can-Am, led by John Merco, who's sitting here, built up relationships with some local Mexican owners and put together the opportunity. That probably couldn't be done today. With the move in the silver prices, things have become more profitable for local miners, and you probably couldn't have brought the different parties to the table to consolidate this district. The other part of a junior company that's particularly important is the management team. I mentioned Michael and Craig put the work to put Vizsla together, and we're supported by a wide range of board that I think suits a project of this scale. Craig and Stuart and myself have been involved in a number of exploration discoveries over our career, and Simon Smirlik is the president of Asenco Mining in the Americas. So he's building a number of mines for mid-tier and major companies. So as we move from the exploration phase to the opportunity to become a producer, we have the requisite expertise to make those changes. Sorry, it does look a little ugly.
Weird. It looked fine on your website yesterday. I don't know.
So, as it stands today, Vizsla has 33 million shares outstanding. As Gwen said, we came back to trading yesterday, and you can see, if I can get the pointer right, a very notable spike, 3 million shares traded, and we closed at 48 cents yesterday. I think we're down close to 42 cents today. I think we were very fortunate to be able to put together an opportunity when metal prices, in particular silver prices, were depressed. And there's a big demand for silver stories in the market at the moment, and I think that's reflected in that change. So a little more on what the property is. The property is a combination of two large separate holdings that cover the claim block. It's been a mining district, it's been continuously mined for over 450 years. It concludes a major highway through it, a whole heap of roads, power, a number of underground mines, a mill that we have an option over, and it's seen significant development over a number of the veins, but it's never really been, apart from a small package which I'll talk about in the mid-2000s, it's never seen that modern exploration to show the potential or to talk about resources. So what that looks like in a bit more detail is two major claim blocks in orange and in white, and the red represents the veins, over 75 cumulative kilometres of veins. it's hard to express how big this is as a district. They're 5-kilometre blocks that separate the two. The other thing that's notable on this slide is that most of the major veins cross the concession boundaries. So a lot of the previous working and mining has been hampered by the fact that the local miners would chase a structure and then they'd lose it because it wasn't on their ground. Some of these veins cross those boundaries multiple times. So we'll be the first company that is able to systematically review this district as a whole. As I said, it's a little unusual to describe because it is so advanced. It has a major 4-lane highway running through the middle of the property. A number of significant bridges and tunnels point to the infrastructure. It's only 40 kilometres east of the Mazatlan, sorry, it's only a 40-minute drive east of the Mazatlan airport. So a couple of local towns, PANUCO and Kapala, long mining towns, so we've got all the infrastructure and access we need. It's not a project that's way up in the mountains in Mexico. There's a number of underground mines. You see a photo I took a couple of weeks ago, underground at San Carlos. Over about 30 different workings. There's 35 kilometres of underground development. And then there's the El Coco mill, a 500-tonne per day mill that was last operating early this year that we have the option over. In terms of what the exploration potential is, I think the key take-home here is the high grades that are in this system. A subsidiary of Capstone optioned a small portion of this property in the mid-2000s, and they were able to put together resources on 2 areas. They drilled holes in Clemens El Muerto, for example, of a bit over 4.2 metres true width at 2.2 kilograms silver and just short of 10 grams gold. They also drilled at La Colorada, but those 2 veins are the only veins that have been drilled on the project. The rest has seen, not only has it not seen drilling, it just hasn't seen any modern sampling, any basic geology map just doesn't exist for this property. So the challenge that's in front of us at Vizsla is to go underground, to sample the existing workings, to go and do the mapping and sampling on these surface targets. An example of what one of these targets looks like, and a caveat here, this is historic work, this is not Vizsla's work. We'll be doing sampling to verify that, but it's an important caveat for this slide. You can see a shallowly dipping, a 50-degree dipping vein here that varies from 2.5 down to 14 metres thick and carries grades like 1600 silver, 800 silver, 1800 grams silver with 3, 6, 11 grams gold in the main zone. So spectacularly high-grade intersections in these ore shoots. If you look at the comparison of this district to some of the major silver districts in Mexico, a really important caveat here is these are proven districts with resources. We know that there's a significant amount of historic mining. We don't know what that was, so the challenge is ahead of us to define those resources. But we're at very similar scale. All of these are at exactly the same scale. Very similar scale to First Majestic San Dimas, which is 80 k's up the road. Same rocks, same style of veining, same style of mineralisation. Some of the major silver districts in Mexico, Zacatecas, Fresnillo, Guanajuato, are exactly the same. And when you compare it to high-grade systems, you see the size compares to all of those. And it's a similar opportunity to Silvercrest in our upcoming work programs in that the start of Silvercrest at Las Chispas was to go underground, rehabilitate the underground workings and move from their high confidence areas to their low confidence areas. Silvercrest has been incredibly successful at that, and we're going to follow a similar model with our exploration here at PANUCO. We currently have an active team on the ground, mapping and sampling going underground on those workings, so we'll have pretty consistent news flow over the next couple of months as we work up these targets, put out the results to show the potential of these veins, and then we'll look to be beginning drilling beginning of next year, possibly even late this year. We just before I go to the financing part, these are the underlying deal terms. So Vizsla has just acquired Can-Am, a private BC company. We've made the first 6 million share payment, which will close in the next week on the acquisition, lifting our total shares out to 39 million shares. And then beneath that is the cash payments to the underlying Mexican vendors. So that's distributed between the two groups, and effectively the way we look at that is for $1.1 million, we have a 2-year option to go and explore for the resources that will allow us to justify the acquisition of this whole district, including the mills, the permits. It's probably hard to explain to people the value on having all that infrastructure, all that underground workings, the mine, the tailings, but particularly the permits. I think if you know any Mexican exploration stories, if you know the time it takes to put together ejido agreements, to build those relationships, how do you value 1 to 2 years worth of work of building those relationships to get those permits? So if we put those resources together over the next couple of years, we have the option to accelerate that payment and become a producer. And on that classic Lassonde curve where you see the exploration spike and then that valley of depression where everyone loses interest in your story, while you work up the confidence in the resource, while you permit, you raise money generally at a very dilutive price because you've lost the market's attention, we can make that payment and become a producer in a very short period of time and just shortcut that entire period. Thank you.
I'll quickly ask Charles a few questions, and then we'll get Jeff and Ian and Cor to come back up, and we'll do a quick Q&A with everyone. This is a financing conference. You guys have not announced a financing, but clearly you have a 2-year window right now to do a lot of work, and you haven't done a financing yet. So obviously that's in the works.
Correct. We did a $1.9 million financing in July, and that was the basis for acquiring the property. The $700,000 payment that's on that list comes out of that financing. We have just short of $500,000 at the moment, and that's ample for this sampling work. It's very cheap to do that, but we will be looking to do a raise for the drilling phase of it, and we expect that to happen in the short term.
And you just wanted your price to settle as a trading entity before. Exactly.
Let this news come out. You see the re-rate in securing an opportunity like this. We'll put some news out on those first results and follow that with the financing.
Let's just, I mean, you've touched on this already, but can you just go quickly through the comparable deposits in the Sierra Madre area for low, medium sulfidation epithermal systems? Can you just talk about like grades and scales and sort of therefore why this is so exciting for you?
I think, and I always risk on getting a little too technical, sorry, on these as the VP of Exploration.
He's a geologist, you can't help it.
The key thing about understanding epithermals is only a small amount of the vein contains the mineralisation. That's the ore shoots along the big structures. So if you don't have lots of veins, you can't build a giant resource. I think what you see in Mexico is a lot of vein all through Western US, another example, and through Canada. Lots of vein systems, but when you see footprints of this scale, they're rare. These have the potential to become the monster deposits. So particularly in epithermals, look for how much vein material's in those. Look at the grades and the widths. We're fortunate to have fantastic grades over some pretty good widths. And if we can find a few more of those shoots or extend the known shoots, I think we can rapidly move that to resource, and we'd love to say in a couple of years that on our actual resource, not just on potential, we compare to peers like this.